Whatever y'all do, do not Google Jigsaw Traps Rule 34 Robert Adams. It does not end well for you. What is going on, everybody? We are the Cinefanatics. My name is Robert Adams. Everyone else is on mute.
Oh,
there you go.
why do I keep doing that?
Voice back.
I'm Tori Rose. Hi.
And joining us tonight, we have
Andres Gallego, aka Gallego.
AKA the name no one can ever pronounce. I've been promoting this like all week, and I'm like, okay, it's Gallego.
Yeah. You got it. Did Vernon drill that?
Yeah. I feel like at this point that like whenever you get confronted with that, someone just says your name and you're like, yep, you're good.
Whatever. you're fine.
You know who I am.
Yeah, but for the record, you've got it.
Awesome. This is the Marquee. This is the show where we tier rank things. Right now, since it's the month of October, we're ranking spooky movies, so that's why this is referred to as the Tears for Fears. Also because I really like 80s new wave metal bands. So
I like that.
Me are familiar. No.
Anyways. Wrong Tears for Fears.
Yeah.
It's in the same movie, but yeah.
Yeah, whatever. So tonight we will be ranking the Saw movies. This is a much beloved franchise of both myself and I believe the other two people here. We all love the Saw movies. We're all up for a good game where you get to chop off your arm or stomach fat or get your bones twisted, rib cage open. We'll talk about all of the gory details of these movies. Before we kick it off, though, there is streamlabs.com/cinefanatics tip. You have any questions, comments, anything you want to add to the conversation, that is the best place for us all to notice it. Andres over here is pointing at patreon.com/cinefanatics. We have great content on Patreon. What was it? Last night we did the movie trivia hangout in preparation for a certain match on the Movie Trivia Schmodown's First Class League Twitch channel coming up this Tuesday the 19th. It's myself versus my brother, the Cinefanatics Civil War. That will be on twitch.tv/the Schmodown at 3 Pacific, since 6 Eastern. Make sure y'all tune into that because it's going to be good, and I'm going to beat my brother. And I love the fact that he's not here to defend for that, so whatever. Yeah. Tear for Fears is not metal. I just said new metal because it just is what flew out my mouth. New wave is what I meant.
Flows better.
Yeah. Makes me also sound more badass, which, I mean, all the reason to do that as possible.
There you go.
But yeah, hop on that Patreon. Lots of good things going on over there. Guys, we are doing the Saw movies. Quite possibly one. I would put this on the tier of... this might actually be a good tier ranking episode as well. Take all the horror movie franchises and tier rank them. What franchise? Like let's tier rank all of Halloween versus all of Friday 13th versus all of Nightmare versus all of Saw and Basket Case and Hellraiser. And I don't know why I threw Basket Case in there, but
it's only one movie.
Basket Case is 3.
I thought it was only 1.
It's 3, and go back and look at the other 2 because Basket Case 2 and 3 are bonkers. Yeah,
I mean,
they're really good.
I mean,
the first one's bonkers.
It's freaking insane. I had to censor that for work once, and I'm like, like everything that was objectable basically amounted to a 45-minute runtime, and you just had to like literally put in like at least 45 minutes worth of ads to even fill up like an hour and 30 minutes space. It was just Whew.
So we're doing the Saw movies tonight. Tori, what is your connection to Saw? Why do you love the Saw movies?
I saw Saw. That's gonna be a thing
Saw.
tonight.
I saw Saw.
I saw it.
We should have a counter that keeps every time we do that.
I saw Saw 6 in 2009. I was 11. Shouldn't have seen it. But I was honestly pretty mature for my age, and at that time I was just like going through a lot. Just like a lot of like personal trauma stuff with my family. More than an 11-year-old should be dealing with. And I remember we were supposed to go see like This Is It, the Michael Jackson movie. And Michael Jackson freaked me out as a kid before all the stuff came out. So my mom like went and watched This Is It, and then with the ticket that we used to get in, I walked across the like theater and Saw 6 was playing. And I was like, you know what? Like, I used to be a scaredy cat as a kid. I'm just gonna watch this, whatever, just go for it. And I just went in and watched it like by myself, and I just like really connected with like, it was like I was going through so much at the time, and I think it was just like an outward expression of just craziness that let me like get my anxiety out in a way of just like, it's a closed anxiety window. It's like you're gonna go on the story for like an hour or two, ride with these people, see if they make it or not, and then the adrenaline comes out, and then you kind of feel this relief after. At least I do with like really gory stuff. I'm like, it freaks me out, and then I experience like a sense of like kind of gratefulness I'm not there. So for me, it really connected. And then I went and actually rent all the Saw movies from Blockbuster. That's how long ago that was.
Blockbuster.
Yeah, I got 1 through 4. They would only let you pick 4 movies at a time to rent and take home. And I just watched them, and I really fell in love with horror movies because of it. So people can make fun of Saw movies. I can make fun of Saw movies. But at the end of the day, they got me into horror. So I feel like I have a weird special place in my heart for the Saw movies because they just got me into watching it. So
nice. So real quick, Movie Fanobi dropped a $9.99 super chat, and I almost forgot super chats were still a thing. Look at this sexy bunch. I wish I wasn't crashing in bed. Have a fabulous rest of the weekend, everyone. # tears for ghosts. I haven't seen too many Saw movies. Love the tattoo work, Tori. Say hi to # ghost cat. Thank you.
Wow, look at
Movie
that.
Fanobi for that.
I don't know if I can even.
Thanks, Movie Fanobi.
You know.
Yeah.
You know.
Tori's just a giant work of art with the tattoos. So yeah, they're fantastic. Andres, why do you happen to love these like super gory movies that we should all be judged and looked at as psychopaths for liking?
I mean, pretty much you can watch the entirety of Rob Zombie's 2007 remake of Halloween, and that will probably clue you into why I'm such a fucked up human. No, I'm kidding. No, I hate that movie. I hate that movie with a passion.
PG-13.
Adult channel. Or not adult channel. Oh, man, even my sore throat needs to be cleared.
Oh, I can't swear. Oh, that's right.
First words don't exist here, but we're talking about Saw, so
forget that movie.
We'll talk about like rib cages getting ripped apart, but yeah, no naughty words can be said here.
And for gosh sakes, watch your language. Oh goodness. But yeah, pretty much my experience with the Saw films was that I was about maybe about to turn 16 going on 17 by the time the first Saw came out.
I got a song stuck in my head. I am 16 going on 17. What like for a Saw tier ranking? Really, that's the song we're going with? Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna go with that one. but the reason why that was so important for me is that like literally I still had trouble getting into freaking R-rated movies and stuff like that, and so I would drag my dad out to go see every single one of them. And I just remember in particular Saw being like the last one that he was like, "Thank God next year you can come see these movies on your own because I'm done. I'm done." And like Saw has always been just one of those franchises that has grown with me, if that makes any sense. In like, you know, you can sort of see just where it starts off in the very first film and where it kind of ends off now, where it's like, oh, it kind of feels like it's kind of been put through the ringer a little bit. But overall, I think it's a really solid franchise, and it's actually one of the rare consistent horror franchises as well. But no, I really dug the first one, and it's still to this day still holds up for me. I actually went to go see the 10th anniversary screening when they re-released all the Saw films in theaters. I mean, the first Saw film in theaters. But yeah, it's one of my favorites, and definitely stuck with me for multitudes of reasons. You know, the gore, the torture, of course, it's all great.
So I remember this when it came out. So the first Saw came out in 2004, and I remember this was roughly around the time that I started realizing, oh yeah, I could get into horror movies. Like, I was so scared. Like, my first horror movie was going to see Scream at the Dollar Theater when it came out. And that, like, in all honesty, looking back, that one wasn't bad at all. But, I mean, because I've wore glasses my entire life, and I forgot if it's near side or far side, but things far away get blurry. So I would always watch horror movies. So I could watch it like this, and then if something gory was about to happen, I'd be like, "Oh, still watching it. Nope, I'm not a chicken or anything. I'm just still watching the movie." But it was roughly by the time Saw was coming out, I was like, "Okay, I'm kind of getting into the groove of these movies. I feel like I could do this." I think I had already because I had already watched like Exorcist a couple of times by then, so like I was like, I'm good on horror movies. But the trailer for this made it look like the first Saw was completely like just all kinds of effed up. See, Andres, that's how you do it.
That's not going away anytime soon.
Yeah. Luckily, I didn't know anything about the first Saw movie. So me and my girlfriend at the time, I think we rented it or borrowed it or something and watched it. And my, as we'll touch upon here in a second, my jaw was on the floor at that end.
Oh, yeah.
Just a fantastic way to start this series. And I've just been hooked ever since. Even though they've just gotten like super convoluted. Like this is the definition of convoluted. If you looked up convoluted, watch the Saw movies. That's how it happens.
They're so convoluted, but they're oddly one of those series that you can go back. You can go back and then like they're so interconnected with one another, and they don't retcon each other in any way whatsoever. Like they've
kept a solid story the whole time, with the exception of at least two movies that I guarantee you are probably going to wind up in the F tier of this ranking.
Oh boy, I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm curious what we're going to do with these rankings because I have feelings.
Yeah. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and get to the rankings. This show is referred to as the Marquee for good reason. Here is our Marquee. Looks a lot like the the Final Cut Pro software I use to edit videos, but I mean, so be it. So here's what we got. We got all the movies down here in F tier. They're all going to move from here. For this ranking, I will go ahead and say, like, we could probably put two movies in S tier. Let's limit this one to two. Two seems to be the magic number for all these so far, anyways.
That's
so
fine.
Only two are allowed in S tier. Everything else can go wherever we feel like they need to go. But let's kick things off with the very first Saw movie, the one that came out in 2004. I think we're all going to be in agreement here. So just in the essence of time, this was going straight to S, because out of all the Saw movies, this is easily the best one. Like I said, the ending to this, if you don't know anything about the Saw movies, if you've never watched it, you haven't heard anything, stop doing anything after you watch us and go watch the first Saw movie and let your jaw just hit the floor like you watched the end of The Sixth Sense. That was good. Such a good movie. Anyways, I believe this belongs in S tier. I have a feeling we're not going to have too much of an argument on this one.
No. Exactly what you said. I think the twist is great. I think the characters are interesting. The whole time you're like trying to figure out what's going on with them. Yeah. I think it's simple. I think it's a classic horror movie.
The other thing I like about this is I would say that the first Saw movie is also probably the only one in this series that I feel like that even if you're not a huge fan of gory horror movies, you could pretty much watch this one. There's the one shot of Amanda digging like the guts out of the dude's stomach and a foot being sawed off, but that's about it. There's no other like any gore in this movie. So this one is extremely tame.
It's extremely tame, and when you look back on it, everyone just kind of goes, "Oh my god, the first Saw is such a exploitive film." But we got to talk about that. Yeah. We got to talk about Charlie Clouser. Like God, that man's a genius. But the really interesting thing about the Saw franchise is that right from the first film, people gravitated to the traps and the high amount of gore and stuff like that. But when you really think about it, a lot of the stuff takes place with people sort of finding crime scenes more than anything else, and sort of the aftermath of everything. And it's only up until we got to Saw 2 that the traps became truly gratuitous and gory. I mean,
even then you kind of push it
a
little bit.
Absolutely. But I think probably one of the main things that we haven't touched on just yet either, that makes this first Saw movie just even so important, even to movie history as well, is that this also brought about the debut of the legendary James Wan, who's given us so much great stuff in terms of the Conjuring movies. And say what you will, I love the first Aquaman movie. And say what you will about Malignant as well. I mean, that's a daring movie, I'll say. But also another one that really doesn't get enough credit, I think, is Dead Silence. And you have
that had a good
that
ending too.
Yeah, absolutely. And all that great stuff that we got later on, we have to attribute to their first Saw movie, and just how, for such a low budget, and they basically shot this movie in less than 17 days, and that's almost no time to do anything. So this movie is an utter miracle from top to bottom. So I think it's fantastic, and it absolutely belongs in the S tier.
Yeah. Going back, the Charlie Clouser theme in this, Hello Zep, is a major theme throughout all the movies. That is that when that music starts, some is about to go down. Something huge is about to happen.
Or Bibiani's about to come through.
Or William Bibiani is
going into something late at night and it starts playing, like, you're out. To me, that's scarier than any other.
I love that theme. That is such a good theme. And
just the way they remix it throughout all the series as well. It's like, oh, what's the remix going to sound like in this one? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And real quick before we move on to the next one, we did get a Streamlabs in. Captain America is apparently watching, and he's warning everyone about language. So thank you, Captain America. Moving on, Saw 2. Here's the thing, like, I'll be honest on this. After the first Saw movie, I really don't see the need to stick any of the rest of these movies in S tier. I don't think any of these movies compare to the high-end quality of the first movie. So I am open to bribes. I mean, negotiations. If anyone else wants to create put a movie in S tier, but Saw 2 was good. This was a decent continuation of the story. It did amp up a little bit more in the gore, but I thought like a lot of the gore stuff was still kind of left to the imagination. I know like everyone always comments that Amanda being thrown in the pit of syringe needles is super gory. It wasn't gory at all.
No.
It just it's you imagining yourself in that situation, and you're like, no, don't want to do it. How do y'all feel about Saw 2? Tori, let's start with you.
I think this is it's one of the higher end of the Saw movies for me. I think it's fun. I think the purpose of a Saw movie when I go into it is it's going to be fun. There's going to be gore. There's going to be traps I wouldn't have thought of. It's going to make me go, ugh. It's kind of, there's a mystery element to it. And I think the fact that you're watching this group and you're trying to like see if they're going to get out all together, and the teamwork and betrayal and how they're going to work together or not, I think was really interesting and very different from the first movie. So for me, this movie is like an A or a B. I would put it at an A compared to the rest of the movies. I think the syringe trap, people who don't even like Saw are kind of aware of the syringe trap. It's kind of a social like thing. And I think the ending, again, like it kind of gets you with like the footage being, I don't want to spoil it, but I guess there's another twist that you're like, oh, I didn't see that coming at all.
I would say for the rest of these, it's going to be really hard to like talk about how good or bad some of these movies could be if we don't, like a lot of these movies, they tend to hinge on that twist. So whether the twist is good or bad can make or break the entire movie, I feel like. So some of these, like, look, we could skip the first one because that one's just amazing. But yeah, from here on out, spoilers for the rest of these because, yeah, we're going to have to talk about some of them, especially later down the line.
So then for
Absolutely.
2, yeah, it's the footage being old, right? Like they think they're watching it live, and
Yeah.
it's not.
Mhm.
I think that makes it so interesting because it just like sucks the hope out of you. So I think the fact that it was so different from the first, they took that leap and they made it like a whole different thing. And the classic syringe trap being probably a lot of people's favorite trap, I think puts this in an A tier for me.
Mhm.
Okay. Andres.
Yeah, for me, I absolutely agree. It's an A tier Saw. It's an A tier Saw sequel as well. It's definitely one of the better ones out of the entire franchise. And then not even just giving us in terms of giving us radically different characters than Lee Winnell and Carrie Always' character in the first one, where it's like, semi relatable. It feels sort of like a Murder on the Orient Express type of thing, where everyone's stuck in one place, but they all have one connection with each other, where it's an interesting mystery that threads all the way through. And I do like all the Donnie Wahlberg stuff, but what really puts this film separate than all the other films is that right in the very beginning of this movie, when they find Jigsaw, he's pretty much like, all right, guys, you caught me, but he still has the upper hand in some reason. I mean, like, they bust in and he's like eating a bowl of Cheerios, just being like, sorry, guys,
you got SpaghettiOs, and he's like,
I want to eat some breakfast.
Yeah, and it's just so funny that like oh my god, I still remember seeing that opening when all of a sudden it's like, wait, did you kidnap my son? And then all of a sudden he's like, no, I just need to call his phone. And then all of a sudden he's like, you reached Daniel's phone, he's not available right now. I'm like, oh god, he's just one step ahead of the curve, and I just love that absolutely. But the other thing too that this movie actually does amp up quite a bit, and you brought it up as well too with the syringe traps, but like opening up this movie with the Venus flytrap, it was that was gnarly in itself. Like, I'm like, all right, they managed to outdo the jaw trap. That's kind of a rarity for horror sequels. And then also on top of that, they give you some really great stuff with the I like to call it the cookie jar trap, which is basically the hands going into the little things.
I hated that.
You hate it?
I hate it because I felt like this is going to happen a couple of times in this. I will bring this up, but this is a great example because it's like first thing easy and early in the franchise.
Mm-hmm.
That's a trap that if you just looked at it, and if you had like half a brain, you'd probably figure out like exactly. Now, granted, I'll give Emmanuel Vaughier's character the benefit of the doubt that she's probably not thinking straight because they're in a house being pumped with poison. Her heart rate's probably like going through the roof, and she just sees a syringe and she just moves. It just wants to go. So it's kind of like all the people saying they're like, "Oh, I could play the Schmodown from their armchair," and not actually sitting under the lights. It's one of those that I'm looking at like any idiot could figure out. You don't stick your arm in there, but well, you're in that situation, and who knows what could happen. I feel like by saying this, that like some pig-headed dude's gonna come and kidnap me. Like, oh really? Let's stick you in the trap and see how you do, you jackass.
Hello, Robert. Do you want to play a game?
I do want to shout out.
You spent all your life on the internet bad-mouthing movies.
I do want to shout out as we're mimicking his voice. Tobin Bell, who plays Jigsaw, is great. I don't know when to shout him out because he is in a lot, like, but his voice is iconic. His tone is iconic. He did a great job being a scary guy.
I do like going back and seeing like older movies that he pops up in, and you're like, what the? Like, he's the albino in The Firm, and I was like,
he's a really great character actor, and he was in so many like family films as well too. Like, you're just like, wow, he's like he sort of has like that Ronnie Wilcox method where Paul Verhoeven was just like, you know what, you play all these really great wholesome characters, so I'm going to cast you as Dick Jones. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's just one of those things where Juan was so ahead of the curve in terms of seeing the potential that Tobin Bell had as a villain that it's just, I mean, there was lightning in a bottle when they cast Tobin Bell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I agree. I like the idea of sticking it in A. I felt like it's a good quality sequel. And then there's Saw 3. Here's the thing. Like, again, the thing I like about this franchise is while the stories are convoluted, they are all still related. Like, you can tell that there was some kind of a sense of the ultimate follow through that all of these movies are following. They didn't just hand off the movie to another director or writer and be like, all right, you saw what movies came before, do whatever you want to do with it. They actually said, hey, so here's what's happened. Here's the beats that we want to hit with this movie. Here's how you need to figure out some way to incorporate this, but don't add too much to it because we don't want the rest of this, like the next movies, to get even more like jumbled and out of place and whatever. I feel like Saw 3 is where that really started to take shapes, mainly because Saw 3 and Saw 4 are happening at the same exact time. So it does kind of rely on that story staying stationary within the confines of that one movie and then moving on to the next one. But this is also where we're seemingly, now we're familiar with Jigsaw and Amanda. Now we're bringing in a whole like group of other people that are like really not related to any of the people that we've been following. While Saw 2 did have like Amanda, now we're setting up a whole new set of people while like we're also building up the like the police force that's coming in, because starting with Saw 2, actually, we start getting introduced to people like Eric Matthews and Officer Rigg and Carrie, and all these people start following through within the next movies. So Saw 3, what did y'all think of it?
So for this one, to me, it's one of the less memorable ones, but I will say that it has my favorite kill in the Saw franchise ever. And it's the angel trap, I think, technically. I always called it the ribcage trap.
Yeah,
but I remember,
angel
again,
wings.
just like seeing it when I was a kid, too young, I know. But I remember like watching it, and I was like watching them all. Like I had just done 1 and 2, and I was now on 3. And I remember like that scene coming up and being like, oh,
And that's how the movie opens. The movie opens
and I didn't know like what was gonna happen. You can't really see, like, it's not clear like it's attached to her, but you're like, what's going on? And when it just like happens, you're like, oh my god, like that is when I think the gore level just like really started to get to like the classic Saw.
Yep.
And so to me, like that kill in and of itself is what I remember about this movie. I did think the Jigsaw like cancer stuff made it interesting because, you know, he's very hard to empathize with, obviously, because the whole time you're just like saying screw you alongside the characters. And like, if you were in that position, you would have so much hatred to him. How much pain he's inflicting on people. But I thought it was interesting they would give us that like behind the scenes. And so it's not, you know, it's not one of my favorites, but I would say this is like a really good B Saw movie for me. That kill is classic. I think everyone has to see that one. And I think it just head starts the Saw gore game for sure.
Andres.
You know, I'm going to have to slightly disagree with you on this one. I think this is actually probably my favorite out of all the sequels because for a multitude of reasons. First off, they up the gore factor in this by quite a bit in comparison to the last one. This movie, while having a smaller set of characters, actually has more traps than all the previous films combined, and you're just kind of like how's that working? But also the other thing too that I really love about this film, I mean, again, if we're gonna spoil the what the twist is, I absolutely love the twist in this where you're watching these two people, this husband and wife, who you don't realize that they're husband and wife, going through parallel stories and having the husband confront his grief about losing his son and, you know, trying to give up little elements of the past and stuff like that. I thought that was actually a very effective character in the franchise, because the thing that you didn't get with the second Saw film was getting to know every single one of those characters. And with this one, I feel like you got a clear understanding of who some of these people are and what their flaws are and how each of these people are interconnected with each other. But I think one of the big things that makes this memorable for me is that this entire movie, you think you're watching Jeff and his wife's traps, but it's actually a test for Amanda the entire time to see if she can actually do the mantle. And just also just throwing in that little element of the cancer stuff with John, where he's literally knocking on death's door in this one. He's literally on the verge of literally like saying goodbye to the audience right then and there, which we never seen in a horror film. We never seen the killer definitively die. Like, you know what I mean? Like, well, that is such a rock star. No. Like here's the thing.
I would say he doesn't do that in these either. So he keeps coming back in all the other movies.
No, he keeps coming back. Yeah. He keeps coming back in flashbacks, but he's definitively dead. Yeah. That's one of those things that with a franchise like this, they could have just figured out some way where it's like, oh, the cancer went away or something like that. It's like, no, he's dead by the end of this one. Like it's flat out very, very clear that he is. But overall, I think this is one of the more memorable of the Saw films. I think the traps are far, far more memorable in terms of just what the emotional stakes are in the film. And I think personally for me, it works so well. It's upper high A tier, but I don't know if we could go somewhere in between, I'd be perfectly happy with that.
To be honest, speaking of convoluted, I kind of didn't remember the some of the scenes you just mentioned being in this one. I do really appreciate the scenes and Jigsaw passing and like the things you just brought up. So I would be fine with it being an A. Yeah. So it's hard for me to like remember the arcs of each one because it does like dip in and out of different things. So yeah.
And then also on top of that, see, I'm specifically, this is one of my favorite movies I've seen in the theater, or horror movies in particular, because I've never seen lines like go through an entire theater for a horror movie, less a Saw film. And this was like going to a rock concert. This was like everybody was there. Everybody was waiting in line for like 2 or 3 hours, waiting to get in to see the new Saw. And I just remember just some of the more indelible moments where all of a sudden, like, you know, a man like Jigsaw has just had a seizure and he's like right on the verge of dying. And Amanda's like, what is he going to need? What is he going to need? And then you just look at Lynn and she goes, power drill. And then the audience just freaking erupted with applause. And it's like, yeah, we're going to see some gore in this shit. So yeah, no, and again, that experience totally makes me a little biased to this movie as well too, but with all those scenes, it definitely amounts to one of the stronger sequels for me. Absolutely.
Robert, what do you think?
Da-na-na, da-na-na, da-na-na-na, da-na-na. Oh,
I didn't even hear it.
Did I?
Anyways, yeah, I think Saw 3, here's the thing, like, I'm looking at this, like, progressively, I feel like these movies are going to start, like, actually, this is funny, I'm saying this even though I know full well ahead, that I feel like these movies are all going to, like, start, like, going progressively, like, I could see, like, S is the first one, A is the second one, this is B, then we go C, D, F. Like
there's a later one that I love. So.
Okay, me too.
Yeah, I know this is good. That's gonna get blown out later, but this one I kind of agree. Like, this is where like the convoluted nature of these movies really starts kicking in. The first two are easy to follow and whatnot, but this one is where it really starts becoming, you've got to be paying attention. If you have like ADHD tendencies, you might need to give this like a second watch just to make sure that you got everything in it. But yeah, that being said, I still think that this one was pretty good. I would actually give this one, if I can move it, I will actually probably put this in A tier right under Saw 2.
I'd be perfectly fine with that.
That's good with me.
Okay. So I think that's where that one is going to live. And let's see. Tim Franco. Jason is technically definitively dead in the final chapter. He's undead from 6 on. Haha. All right, Tim, we're bringing you on for the Friday the 13th tier ranking.
Oh, but can I introduce 4 in a way? Because I feel like it connects to that.
Okay.
I really like the opening scene of 4 because it's the autopsy, right? If I'm getting it, I just want to make sure I get my check. I feel like that was their way of being like, he's dead. Like, for anyone who's like, maybe he lied and like maybe he's gonna come back. I remember thinking that as a kid because again, at this point, I had like watched a few other horror movies. I was like, okay, like no one really dies. And you watch him get like his autopsy for like 10 minutes and they just show you like he's dead.
They pull out his lungs.
Yeah, I thought the scene was like
D-E-D, dead.
Dead. I really love this scene too because again, it's just like seeing an autopsy, like that's so taboo and weird. And for a movie to show it like really prolonged, you're just like, but you're fascinated, but you're like, and then you're like, Jigsaw's dead. That's mostly what I remember from 4. I know a lot of the cop stuff gets more developed in this one. But it is weird. Like it does start to descend and like Saw 4 for me, besides the autopsy scene. I think it does start to get a bit more convoluted with the cop stuff. So to me, it does start to lean more toward like a B or a C. Maybe a B because I like the autopsy scene so much because I'm a weirdo, but I want to hear what you all say because I feel like this is where like this is one of those movies that I could see you either like hating, liking, or being in the middle, and I wouldn't be surprised. I think it's just like one of those more convoluted ones.
Yeah. Going with the cops, this is definitely where like the movies kind of before here have been more of just find random person who's effing up their life and throwing them in a trap. Now the movies are they're seemingly starting to really focus on just punishing the cops who are working on the Saw cases. It's like, we're going to stop the cops from investigating and just go after them. So even though like some of these cops that have been introduced already, this is the movie that really puts the forefront of Mark Hoffman, Rigg. You still have Detective Matthews. We also get introduced to Schramm and Perez in this movie. So lots of focus on the police investigating. But again, this is taking place at the same time as Saw 3, and I like that connection that there's two interconnected stories happening at the same time, which does come into play for the later movies. And it's them doing stuff like that is what really helps cement the audience really like connecting with these movies, because now they realize that these movies are possibly going to pull that. Keep that in mind when you're watching the later movies. Mm-hmm. That stuff could be happening at the same time, or go back to Saw 2 where they're not happening at the same time. Yeah, you don't know what to think. And I think, this is a movie that really like just pushed the limits of that, and just really everything being convoluted comes from this movie. This Saw 4 is where the convoluted nature of the entire franchise actually starts.
Yeah, it starts off because the screenwriters on this one, Patrick Milton and Marcus Dunstan, they're primarily responsible for some of the more zanier of all the sequels, where they get very convoluted after a little bit. So, yeah, absolutely, I agree that this is where it starts. Sorry, I was laughing because you had mentioned one very important thing that makes one of the later films kind of be like, what are you talking about right here? Remember the fact that, Robert, you said Jigsaw targets cops in this one, correct? Right?
Ish. Yeah.
All right. Tori knows exactly where I'm going with this. But no, I absolutely agree with both of you guys. For me, this one would be a B tier movie for me. I mean, like, the autopsy scene is one of those that I'm like, wow, they really got away with showing all of that. Mm-hmm. And the MPAA apparently let them get away with it because of the fact that it was medically correct, and that's technically what they end up doing, and that's not necessarily gore for the sake of gore, even though for us, the audience, it definitely is. It's like, oh, well, they have to measure the brain, they have to take out the intestines, they have to open up the rib cage and all that other stuff. But then the minute that they cut into his stomach and then they find a tape in there, that was just perfect. That was just so perfect. It's like no matter what happens, if there's not a tape with Jigsaw, then then what are we watching, right?
Do
But
we
yeah,
think he ate it or like surgically put it in himself?
oh no, he definitely ate it.
He ate it.
In 3.
They
There's a
showed
moment
it
where
in
he's
3.
covering the tape in wax, and
Mhm.
then he just like then he just swallows it down. Which keep
He
in mind,
swallows it.
yeah. Keep in mind, he's been on IV drips for weeks, and he's still able to swallow something like that. Okay, I'll take the leap of faith on that one. I'll take the leap of faith.
Okay. Jigsaw swallow games.
Is that going to count as a cuss for me? Probably.
I didn't hear anything.
No.
Okay. Oh, good. but overall, I think this is a solid sequel, but it's not one of the more memorable ones. But here's the thing: it's oddly for me one of the last few memorable ones. It's not one of the more memorable ones, but it's like, this is kind of like the last little glimpse of originality for the series for me. So I would give this a solid B. It's just fine.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that.
And also we haven't talked about any of the traps because I mean, apart from the autopsy scene, what kind of traps do we really remember? I mean, like the see no evil, hear no evil one. I think that one's cool, but
yeah.
Is this where the twisty guy is, or is that in 5?
That's what I'm trying to remember. I believe that one is in 5. It's the
Where he
one
gets
that
his
everyone
body
talks
twisted?
about. The dude's stuck like in the like cross like pose, and he's got.
Oh no, that's 3.
And he gets.
Oh, 3.
Like,
That's
I'm
3.
like,
That's
We'll put 3 now.
yeah. You're talking. Yeah, you're talking about the crucifix trap. Yeah, that one. That one is.
Yeah.
Oh no. It's the rack.
It is 3. Yeah, the rack. Trap. Yeah.
Which is Jigsaw's favorite one out of the entire bunch, because I remember having to rewatch every single one of these movies to write a Video Chronic pop culture quiz for the entire series. And it was like, oh yeah, which one is Jigsaw's favorite trap? And then people were just stuck because they're like, what? It's like, yeah, he mentions that it's his favorite trap out of the bunch. But yeah, no, that's 3. but again, there's not really that many memorable traps going forward. It's just like one really bright spot, I think, going forward now.
Yeah, I like the rack trap. I think that one's probably my favorite. I do like the Detective Carey and the angel with the rib cage. There is another one later on that I really like. It like I'll reveal it now. It's the final thing at the end of Saw 6. I thought that was just like the ultimate form of
talk
gruesome.
about Saw 6 later.
Yeah.
Save my
But before we get to 6, well, first of all, we're all good with Saw 4 being in B.
Absolutely.
Okay. So before we get to 6, you must talk about 5. So now we know going into Saw 5 that pretty much everyone and their mom are probably an accomplice of Jigsaw.
Yes.
Like seeing Mark Hoffman like step up off of that chair at the end of 4, you're like, really? Okay. Now there's nothing to stop anyone from being an accomplice. I feel like that's the thing I thought going into Saw 5 is I feel like there's no more. It's like when a character dies or doesn't die, but you know it was going to happen. For example, we got Halloween Kills come out this weekend. We already knew there's going to be a Halloween Ends, another sequel coming out next year. Therefore, we know pretty much, you could probably guarantee that Michael Myers is not going to die at the end of this new one. So where's like why bother?
Yeah.
Like if there's no, and I'm losing the word of what it could be. There's no
intrigue or
verisimilitude.
Yeah, there's stakes. That's it. There's no stakes in this. Anybody could be a Jigsaw accomplice now, so we're all just screwed up at that point.
Yeah, I think the concept of there being accomplices was interesting because it's kind of like Stockholm Syndrome, but they're also like doing it themselves now. And I also find it just like narcissistic because they're all like, you're ruining it. You're not doing enough with your life, blah, blah, blah. But then like all they're doing with their lives is just like messing with other people. Do you know what I mean? And I guess they assign it meaning because they think that they're helping them in a weird way. So I think that's how they get away with it in their head. But for our perspective, it's like they're wasting their lives by putting people in these traps. But yeah, 5 for me is one of the less memorable ones. Again, it just gets more convoluted from 4. I'm trying to think of any traps from this one.
There's only one that occurs from me right off the bat.
Which one is that?
The cube trap, which is the cube and the the box of water that fills up, and the guy has to do the tracheotomy. That's the only one I know.
Yeah, so for me, this
Strong.
would be like a D, probably a D movie.
Yeah, I don't think this one would rank as high either. Andres?
There's really nothing memorable about this one, apart from that one trap. And then this is also the first time where I kind of felt that Darren Lynn Bousman, he's most definitely not James Wan level quality in terms of picking his actors, because the casting of Costas Mandylor really shreds credulity, and you just start going, why is like I don't know, for someone who's supposed to be the accomplice of Jigsaw next to Amanda, it just felt like such a weak casting choice, and you were just like, what am I doing watching this guy? Like, he's almost kind of ruining every scene that he's in. Like, you don't buy any of it. And you just can't wait for him to die. That's all I felt watching any of the Saw films. I mean, going forward from here, that include Costas Mandylor. So yeah, it's absolutely a D tier movie for me. There's apart from the cube trap, I can't really remember anything else. What is it called? The compactor trap, I thought was great, but
yeah,
but even that's kind of less memorable, the bunch. So yeah, D it.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking also, that this is gonna rank pretty low. Nothing too memorable, just pushing the story forward. Yeah, you're saying D. I'm trying to look and see what else we have coming up. Actually, yeah, I could see D being pretty good for this one.
Yeah, it's not the worst one out of the bunch, but it's getting there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we're gonna go with D on that one. Let's go to Saw 6.
Yeah,
this one I like.
Mm-hmm.
This one I like. Well, go ahead, Tori. Like, it sounds like this was the first Saw movie that you watched. It sounds like.
So this is my baby. This is my first one, and it's weird that this is my first one because it was obviously the 6th movie in a franchise. I was like, I'm probably not going to know what's going on. I'm probably going to be confused, but I really wasn't. I was like, okay, there's a guy playing a game, and this one it kind of steps away from the convoluted stuff going on in 4 and 5 a bit, and I found the storyline with like the loners, the loan sharks, whatever, to be really intriguing.
They're insurance, the medical insurance people.
Yeah, because in your head as a human, as like, a poor audience member, you're watching it like, yeah, they kind of do kill a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so it really, I think this one makes you psychologically struggle a lot. And that in itself to me was interesting, to be like, who am I rooting for? And like, who am I watching this right now? I thought it was creative. I thought it tried to get a little bit back to its roots of like having more of a storyline that's kind of in this movie itself. And yeah, I thought is this when you get the backstory with Jigsaw and his wife, Jill, with the long people?
That sort of everything
it's
between Jigsaw and Jill.
You get the flashback with the pregnancy thing, though, right? Where she gets hit.
I think that might be started here, but we find out more about that we find like really like a lot of the major information, I think, in Saw 3D or 7 or whatever you call it.
The final chapter.
Not really.
I just Googled like little bits, and so I just think this one is as classic to me as the first one. It has more gore than the first one, but to me it's as interesting. To me, this is S tier, and that's why I said before having 2 in there is fine. I just think it's interesting. I think it's my baby. It started me into horror, so I'm so biased, but I'm putting it S tier.
I think it deserves the F tier just because it kills off Eddie Winslow. Just kidding.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Fight Robert?
This is the one with Eddie Winslow in it, but
Yeah.
but no, it doesn't belong in F tier. I actually really like, yeah.
No,
This one,
you're like, I get it, Jigsaw, and for a second you're like, do it.
they did it in such a way where you feel for it. This is the movie that I feel like putting the healthcare insurance industry at the forefront. Every single person watching this movie connects to that in some form or fashion. You're like, yeah, screw these bastards.
The American
Rip them
healthcare
apart.
system
Yeah,
equals
let's
rooting
just
for
tear
Jigsaw.
them apart.
We're all
Who's
like,
the villain in this
yes.
one?
The
Oh, my
healthcare
goodness.
system, screw them. Get rid of them. Let's get the Canadian healthcare system up in this piece.
Well, 'cause
This
the whole
movie
idea,
this movie would not make sense if it was taking place in Toronto, although it
No.
is shot in Toronto.
No, but the whole thing of they choose who lives or dies. So they are doing a Jigsaw thing.
Yeah.
They just don't put people in traps. But they base it off of your decisions in life. Jigsaw traps people based on their decisions in life and then gives them repercussions for it. It's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think 6 is definitely one of the better of the sequels as well, because of the fact that it leans into what I think 4 and 5 should have leaned into, where it is pure satire. It is picking apart something that, of course, we can all empathize with the lack of the healthcare system here in this country, but it also gives you very, very, very different traps. The air trap I thought was really inventive and really, really, really awesome. It's on the poster right here. The merry-go-round trap I thought was really great.
The acid at the end.
That's the one that was the one I was referring to earlier. I just love that one. That is so gruesome and so perfect. Just
oh yeah.
As acid gets me, because once it's on you, it's
you're
it
screwed.
just dissolves everything. Yeah.
Man, I
Yeah,
recommend
no wonder why you love
Alien movie series.
Yeah, I mean, no wonder why you love the angel trap, because what does it start off with?
Yes.
Go get that key that's dissolving in acid.
Yeah.
Which I think is unfair to begin with. It's what?
I know. And it's what if it splashed on her face? She would just die from the acid.
Well, I mean, in all due credit to that one particular trap, it was unbeatable. So
yeah. Very true. Very true. But I would actually put this at a very high A, I would say. For me, it doesn't necessarily reach the heights of S, but it's one of those that I can't help but just give it the praise that it deserves, because it's one of those that people actually legitimately hate this sequel. And it's one of those where you can sort of weed out the people that understand what the Saw movie is and the people that don't. Mm-hmm. So I would say that 6 is probably high A tier for me.
Robert, you get to pick.
I actually here's the thing. I was gonna put it not quite as high, but I think y'all convinced me on this. I do like 6. The storyline is great in this. Again, all the healthcare stuff. The one thing that we haven't mentioned about, and I would actually call it, even though the acting is a little questionable, which sucks because all the actors in this scene are fantastic. Mm-hmm. It's just the script they had to work with. But there's a scene in this movie that I feel like is probably the best singular scene of the entire franchise. It is the part where, after we've realized that Agent Perez is still alive, we have Erickson, played by what's his face from Shawshank Redemption, Mark Rolston. Him and Perez bring man, I'm tripping over all the names tonight.
I never know their names.
They bring Hoffman into this office where they're descrambling the voice on the tape. It's a tape that Hoffman played when he was killing Seth Baxter.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go into the story, but he killed Seth Baxter and they played a tape and they unscrambled it. Mark Hoffman was trying to make it look like Jigsaw. So as the audience, that they're going to unscramble this tape and they're all about to hear Mark Hoffman's voice.
Yeah.
You are on the edge of your seat because you see Hoffman is in the back pacing, just ready to oh my God, what's going on here?
And he can't do anything about it.
He can't do anything until it's actually revealed. It is such a good scene. Like you are on the edge of your seat. What's weird is because you're connecting with the villain in that scene. You're like, oh my God, don't catch him. Don't find out. Something screws up a lot. Nope. They find it, and it's just bloody good scene.
That whole movie, like, is you're weirdly sympathizing with Jigsaw, and that's why I think it's really well done. If it gets you to the point where after 5 movies of him killing people, you're like, these health and care workers, though.
Yeah, and oddly enough, for the origin story of Jigsaw, this seems oddly very personal to him. I mean, be it the fact that, you know, the healthcare system completely failed John Kramer, and going forward, it's one of those things where it's like, you know what? Of course he would love to take that apart. Like, you know what I mean? But I mean, I kind of felt the opposite of what you guys felt, where it was like, oh my God, he's going to find out. I was like, oh my God, please find out so we can get Costas Mandalore off this franchise now. Like, that's all I was thinking.
Yeah. I do like this at Tim Franco saying the lead guy is the bully German Cool Runnings. What is up with you, Jamaica? You think you bobsled? Like, I hate that guy. So yeah, if they could have actually kept him as that character from Cool Runnings and put him in this movie and did the acid thing to him at the end, would have made Cool Runnings so much better. And Cool Runnings was already cool. I mean, Jamaican bobsled team with John Candy, sign me up.
Ooh, such a great movie.
Yeah. So yeah, I think Saw 6 is in a good place right there.
I absolutely agree. I'm actually shocked that you guys were on board with that one, because everybody I've talked to, they absolutely hate 6.
Bring them to me.
Yeah. Here's the other thing too. As always, after we're done with this, we'll have like one final deliberation if we want to move anything around. Because I will actually I will take inquiries in regards to if we are allowed 2 movies in the S tier. If nothing else is going to go in the S tier, spoiler alert, nothing else is going to go in the S tier.
I don't know.
I could accept arguments for pushing Saw 6 up into S tier. So I might be good for that.
Jeremy gets me. Anyway.
Yeah. So let's move on to what was essentially the final movie of the Saw franchise. Saw 7, better known as Saw 3D, because the time this came out, everyone was doing 3D. So this was the movie at the time. There was also a reality show out called Scream Queens, and whoever wins that won a part in a Saw. No. Sorry. I'm wrong. It was the movie before. It was Saw 6 that began with was it Tanisha Howard at the beginning. Yeah. So everything I just said, that was Saw 6. And another reason why Saw 6 is in the A tier.
Oh, when she chops her arm off? Yes.
Yeah. This is the one that begins with the 2 guys and the girl in the public storefront, which was awesome idea.
I actually really like that one quite a bit too. And also, here's the thing, is a lot of movies use the gimmick of 3D, whereas this one, I kind of felt like they did have certain sequences that did play into the 3D actually really well. Like the blade coming down on you, I thought that was great in 3D. I thought the Chester Bennington trap as well too, with the skinheads, I thought that was particularly well done in 3D. But apart from that, that's kind of where it ends.
I love that they got the one of the best rock and roll screamers of all time, easily, to play that role where he's screaming because his back is glued to his chair and he's trying to pull it. Oh God, that was such a good role for Chester. Rest in peace.
Yeah,
there you go.
But here's the thing: like, I will kick this off immediately, and I will defend as to why this movie is going straight into the F tier.
Ooh.
My reason for this, again, spoilers, is this movie, its little twist that it was trying to be twisty about was bringing back Cary Elwes's character, Dr. Lawrence Gordon. And I feel like that fell extremely flat. Any idiot could see that ending coming from a mile away. If they had not shown Lawrence Gordon at the beginning, like the whole time, if we didn't know that Cary Elwes was in this movie until that final reveal where he pulls off the pig's mask and he's like, not this time. Like, that would have been awesome. That would have been the perfect capper to the entire franchise. But because we saw Lawrence Gordon earlier sitting in with that support group of Jigsaw survivors, I was like, okay, so we got Lawrence Gordon back in this. We're showing how Lawrence Gordon survived at the end of the first Saw movie, cauterizing his stump on a hot pipe. Just, okay, I guarantee you he's another apprentice. Going back to what I was saying earlier, where anybody could be an apprentice. Mm-hmm. He's going to be an apprentice. He's the one that was doing all the medical stuff, sewing the key behind the eyeball, and anything that involved heavy medical need. He was the one doing it for Jigsaw. Like, that ending was ruined the second that they announced that Cary Elwes was coming back in this movie. That should have been kept silent this entire time and should not have been revealed until the very end. That kills the entire movie for me.
I think I'm glad they brought him back. I wish it was in a different way. I almost wish he would have saved or helped people, because I just do think it would have subverted expectations where everyone would have thought he was going to be the next apprentice. And instead, perhaps he was like just make him more interesting and make him actually a good person. Because I feel like that would prove Jigsaw wrong of like, I survived the thing.
You get an apprenticeship.
You get an apprenticeship. You get an apprenticeship. We all get apprenticeships.
I'm quote tweeting that from somebody. Oh my God.
Harrison Ford is here.
Yeah.
Everyone's a psycho.
Yeah. I'm glad they brought him back. I wish it was in a different capacity. I would say D or F. So...
Yeah,
there's nothing that memorable about it. I like the storefront scene, but I can't see in 3D, Andre. So it doesn't really add anything for me. So I mean, I have to take that with a grain of salt and just believe you. I trust you, but to me, there's just not anything as memorable. So I would say D or F, maybe D because they did bring him back, and I think that's important to close out a giant sequel. But yeah, I think it was predictable.
Yeah, it's predictable, but I will say one thing. It is, I mean, if we're making a case for D or F, I would actually put it a little higher than 5, because here's the thing. If you put a gun to my head and tell me to pick between 5 and the final chapter, I wouldn't even blink. I would go final chapter all the way, because I think 5 is just such a waste of time that it does nothing for the series. At least this closes off stuff. At least the twist, there is somewhat of a twist, whereas in 5 there wasn't a twist at all. Like, honestly, what was the twist in 5? The twist in 5 was that Hoffman still got away. No, that's not a twist. That's a plot development. And it was
the twist was that Jill was secretly assigned to punish Hoffman.
Oh, well, yeah, that was still kind of weak. And then also on top of that, having Hoffman survive at the very end.
Wait, was that 5 or was that 6? That's the other thing with these movies, y'all. These movies blur into one.
You're right. You're right. Hoffman survives the trap at the very end, but no,
that Jill puts him in.
The Jill trap. The Jill reveal. I believe that's 6, because that links into what happens in this one. Mm-hmm. Whereas 5 was just such a waste of time that it just. Like they tried, but it just kind of, there was just a lack of effort on that one. Whereas I feel final chapter actually tried to do something, and there's far more memorable things in it, and a far more memorable story arc for me in that one, where it's what's his name? Not Norman Reedus, the other Boondock Saint.
Sean Patrick Flannery.
Sean Patrick.
Bobby Dagan.
Yeah. Which I thought the idea of Jigsaw punishing someone who is pretending to be a Jigsaw victim, I thought that was a really great idea.
It was.
And it's not necessarily executed perfectly, but it was executed well enough, I thought. And for that, I give it a little more higher points than Saw 5, whereas 5 was just, I felt nothing watching 5. At least I felt something watching final chapter.
The other thing I didn't like about this one was it Chad Danella's character, Detective Gibson, the cop that Jill goes running to protect me.
Mm-hmm.
He's good. We've seen him in a bunch of things. He was in Final Destination. He was in Smallville. Like, he's done a good job. That guy just lost all, like, everything he ever learned in acting school before doing this movie, because he was quite possibly the worst actor of the entire franchise. And that's saying a lot at this point. But I like him. I still like him as an actor. Just I don't think this was a good role for him. And so therefore, every time he was on the screen, I was like, fast forward. Just like he was a pointless character. I get why his character existed for like kind of a little bit of a story connection with Hoffman, but otherwise just terrible character. This looked like they had no idea exactly how to wrap up the franchise at the end. They just knew they wanted it to end with Carrie Elwes coming back and being the final like nail in the coffin. Nail in the coffin for Hoffman. Nail in the Hoffman. The Hoffman coffin. Whatever. Yeah, this movie I believe belongs in F tier, but it belongs in the high end of F tier. So it's not even the worst of the franchise. F plus, yeah. Everyone pretty much agree F tier is good for this movie. I know, Andres, you were kind of teetering between this and Saw 5, but at least Saw 5 is like decently watchable in the way on your way to 6.
Arguably, I don't know. I would.
They're in the same camp.
They're in the same camp. I'll let it go for now. But it's one of those where I'm like, yeah, no. 5 still is to be like. Anytime I'm doing a rewatch of the series, 5 is where I immediately start tuning out.
Yeah, understand.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll put that in F. This next one, Jigsaw, I believe this is going to go pretty much the same way as the first Saw movie. This one's going straight to F without pretty much any discussion at all whatsoever.
My goodness.
I was about to say, was just straight freaking trash. The less we talk about this movie, the best.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
This movie's just garbage. There's nothing good about this movie. The trailers were all trying to make it look like that Jigsaw was back from the dead. In contrast to what Andres was saying earlier, that this franchise like solidifies the lead guy is dead. He's not coming back. This movie tried to make it look like he did come back. It failed miserably. Everything fell flat. The twist at the end, while it was like maybe a little kind of cool, but ultimately they tried to reveal some other apprentice that nobody gives a damn about. We don't know who this person is. We don't care why this person exists. And since they didn't build upon it afterwards, no one will ever give a damn who this person is.
You know what they should have finished it off with? I mean, they killed Jigsaw pretty early, but if they had him in his own, like in a trap, that would have been just
his own trap. Like someone else put him in a trap.
His daughter.
Yeah, it would have been that would have been interesting. I mean, what's called if we can blame anybody for killing off Jigsaw very early on, we can blame Darren Lynn Bousman, because like literally Lynn Bousman would refuse to come back to do Saw 3 unless he was like, unless I can kill Jigsaw at the very end of this film. Why? Because there's a podcast where he talks about the making of Spiral, and he talks about just some of the demands they had, and you're just like, wow, you just kind of just went like, you just kind of just went in swinging around, just being like, I want to do this. It's like not conducive to a franchise. You're leaving everybody in a very tough spot, and it's not going to be a great spot going forward. But I don't know. Jigsaw, it was bad as well. I think the only saving grace of this film is that they actually gave us, finally they gave us a trap with lasers in it. That was the only saving grace.
Yeah, which is the last like 2 minutes of the movie.
The last 2 minutes, and then I remember the only thing that me and my friend, when we came out of this, we were like, you know what, it felt good to hear Hello Zepp one more time in the theater, and then that was it. Yeah, but it's such a shame because I love the Spurg brothers, because they did Daybreakers, which I think is a very underrated vampire movie. They've done a lot of really great stuff, and like it's just it's just a waste of time. It was just so bad. I hated it. So yeah, I won't argue for F. I will still argue I would watch Jigsaw over 5 though.
I don't think I saw Jigsaw in the theaters, and I watched the was it the Dead Meat Kill Count, and that's about it. I don't think I'll ever need to return to that particular movie ever again. You don't need to watch it if you're doing an entire franchise rewatch. There's no reason to watch Jigsaw. So yeah. I think that's where that movie's going to stay for the rest of its life, and my life with me is it will never be watched again. Spiral. This one did some interesting things. I like, first of all, the thing I liked about Spiral is out of nowhere, we got Chris Rock wanting to support this entire franchise. He came out the gate like guns blazing, ready to make another Saw movie. And I wish I could do a proper Chris Rock impression because he has a very distinctive voice. But imagine his voice like at some board meeting going, I'd like to bring back a Saw movie. Like him saying something like that, and everyone's like, this is the guy that was like talking about like black people versus the N-word, right? Like this is the guy that wants to bring back the Saw franchise. Like, okay. It's so off the wall and weird that Chris Rock would do this, and it surprisingly it weirdly fits a little.
Yeah,
sort of, a little, very little, but I didn't absolutely hate this movie.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think it was a refreshing take. I think like them looking into kind of like murders that are reminiscent of the past, and like we're reminiscent of Saw. There was just like a nice parallel to it. I'm trying to think of, I saw this like a very long time, like when it first came out. Like I don't even remember how, but I'm trying to think of a kill from this one. Because there isn't.
So the first one was the dude being strung up by his tongue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like it definitely brings back like the weird kill ideas. So I would say it's probably a C or a D for me. It's definitely not an F.
Yeah, no, this is definitely not F tier movie. Andres.
I'm gonna have to break away from the pack, and I'm gonna say this is absolutely an F tier for me. An F tier movie for me. The script is horrible all the way through. The twist is far more predictable than anything that has come before. Immediately when the dude shows up, you know what? If we're not trying to spoil it because it just came out, the minute one character is introduced, you go, that guy's the killer, and I immediately knew it right off the bat. The acting from Chris Rock is abysmal. Like there's just certain scenes that just doesn't match. Like when he's doing the FU off, I call it, when he's just screaming FU to another cop for like literally a minute straight. You're just like, what movie is this? And I remember literally watching a trailer for this as I was watching Saturday Night Live and thinking, oh, this is a Saturday Night Live sketch. And then I was like, wait a minute, no, that's real.
That's a bad time to be playing the trailer to this.
Yeah. It was a TV spot. It was like literally right before the pandemic, because remember, this was supposed to come out, hello, Garth. Yeah, this was supposed to come out right in May of last year before we went into lockdown and all this other stuff. But the thing was that it really says something when you can't discern between the actual SNL parodies and what the real movie is. So much of this film felt so artificial. The direction was sorely lacking. They got back Darren Lynn Bousman, and this proves to me that Darren Lynn Bousman just got lucky when he got hired to do Saw 2, 3, and 4. Because everything else that he's done, apart from Repo the Generic Opera, has been abysmal. And this movie doesn't do anything in order to change my mind on that. And again, it's just so bad. I hate it with a passion. Like, the last couple of Saw films that have come out throughout the years, like, it just feels like they're just trying to put the paddle on a dead patient by this point, and it's just done. I again, For me, it's absolutely bottom of the barrel F tier. The ambitions that I tried to do, I mean, again, I can give it that kind of credit for what it was trying to do with the police violence stuff. But for a script that's as badly conceived as this one, where they're going, well, Jigsaw has never targeted cops before. What did we talk about 4 movies back? He was targeting cops. This movie doesn't even remember its own mythology. It pisses me off so much. I hate it. So there we go.
Is it the worst for you?
Oh yeah, hands down the worst for me. It's the one. I own all the Saw movies. Spiral came out, and I was like, I don't need to own that. I don't need to own that.
Who do you want to move up from F? Or do we have to? We only put
no.
F?
Those 2 movies, screw them. They stay in F. So here's the thing. My initial opinion of this is I was going to stick Spiral in the C because it is watchable. It has a good purpose. It is topical. And as of right now, it still has a slight possibility of being continuated upon. I want to see the new killer in this one could potentially be in another movie, and if that movie does well, that will make this one even better. It for all intents and purposes, this is a whole new Saw. That's why they called it Spiral and not some form of Saw. But this is starting the entire franchise back over, and it could, if they do a sequel and the sequel's done right, it could make this movie sit in a pretty nice position. Problem is this movie has been out since May, and we've heard nothing about a potential sequel to it.
That tells you a lot, guys. That tells you a lot, because Lionsgate is very, very just like, oh my God, if there's a potential for a sequel. John Wick wasn't even out for 2 weeks before they announced, oh, you know what? We're going to come out with a John Wick 2. Same thing with the sequels. Like, it was barely in its opening weekend when we got the announcement that we were going to get 3. And then as soon as 3 came out, we right away got the announcement that they're doing 4 and 5 back to back. It's very telling when the studio just doesn't want to do another installment of the franchise. So in terms of all this talk of like, oh, the next film could build upon it. Yeah, it could build upon it if we were getting a next film. But by this point, I don't think we're going to get a next film. And I think the audience and I think the box office has spoken for this film in terms of how abysmal it is. And in terms of how just the conversation was just so this movie was the Last Jedi for the Saw franchise. This one was the one that people either thought was amazing.
Why that movie? Why are you sitting here on the internet have to bring up that movie?
You can't say curse words on here.
Here's the thing. I actually like The Last Jedi quite a bit, but it's one of those things where it's the film that sort of split the fan base apart, I think.
Okay, I understand that.
I'd be fine putting it in D for the sake of it being Andres' least favorite.
God, it's my least favorite out of the bunch. But
like, I said C or D for mine in the first place.
I will say I would probably okay. I probably still would watch Saw 5 over Spiral.
I would
because
too.
Again, Saw 5 is a part of, like, if you're watching the main franchise, Saw 1 through 7 or 3D or whatever. Spiral, I feel like, is not necessary to watch if you're doing the whole franchise. It is a one-off type movie.
It is a one-off that it sort of feels like a Saw movie that's apologizing for being a Saw movie, because the traps are very they're not that creative, really. Like, there's no theme behind them. There is almost just kind of it just kind of feels like a very haphazard type of thing. And the thing is, Darren Lynn Bousman has said that it was done that way on purpose as a way to sort of ground the series again. But you don't ground a series like Saw after you've proven that a formula works over and over again. And the writers and Bousman were so convinced that the audience was going to be fully invested on just the fact that this was a detective story with Jigsaw being a part of it in some way, shape, or form. And I'm like, wow, you really, really got on your high horses on this one. And to me, it just fell so flat. So
especially because this is the only one of the Saw movies that Tobin Bell is not in.
yeah.
I think there's a picture of him, but that's it.
Yeah, that's it. And you know what? Honestly, like the reasons that people hate, I mean, the reasons I've come across for people hating this were like, oh, really says something when Tobin Bell's on it. I'm like, Tobin Bell, I mean, again, how this right off the bat says that this is from the Book of Saw. It is a character that is inspired by Jigsaw. I'm totally fine with that. We need to go in a different direction. But the breadcrumbs leading up to that finale, you could telegraph it from so far away. I mean, like, honestly, it was just one of those things where it was like, wow, okay, they're purposely hiding this character at this point in time. They're purposely introducing us to certain aspects of this. It was just so predictable, and because of the fact that Lynn Bousman and Chris Rock were so just like very much like, yeah, this is going to be the one that redefines the franchise so much that it just kind of made me resent the movie to a certain extent. And again, this is me doing a little bit of research coming out, because I remember coming out of this and really disliking it, and I was like, you know what? Maybe I should take a look and see what the filmmakers had to say about this, because sometimes I turn around on certain things when I find out what the intention is. Maybe it didn't work for me at the time. I'll be willing to give it another chance. And this one just so felt like they were so proud of themselves and they were so up their asses about it, and I just hated it. I just hated it all the way through.
Yeah.
Whew. Sorry.
All right. Well, thank you for coming to Andres's TED Talk about the Saw movies.
I had to come up with my reasons why I dislike this movie, because that was a hot topic point, especially in May, where it's like, oh, you know, you don't support this. It's like, no, it's not because of that. It's because of other things. And
these are the Saw movies. They're all in a hot topic. What are you talking about?
You were sitting there while Robert and I were talking about it, like saying it's like
Billy
a parody, like.
Would you like to dress up like Billy the Puppet? Hot topic.
Yeah.
Anyways, so that's our ranking so far. Do we want to argue the placement in any of these?
Put 6 in S.
I'm gonna put 6 in S. Okay.
I'd be okay with it.
It's under the first Saw, as it should be, but
yeah, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing: if those of y'all watching, depending on if y'all have seen the franchise or whatever, if you have not liked Saw 6, go back and give it another shot. Watch it on its own. Don't watch it in like a franchise rewatch. Just watch it.
Pretend you're 11-year-old me. Go to act like you're about to watch This Is It, Michael Jackson, and then retreat and then watch Saw 6.
So I'm thinking that looks pretty good. I don't know if we really need to move anything else around. I know Andres is gonna probably still argue for Spiral and F, but I think Spiral was watchable way more than Jigsaw, and I actually probably would rather watch Spiral than Saw 3D again.
Well, if you want to laugh, absolutely you can watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say that opening where they're talking about Forrest Gump was hilarious, but that's all I remember from Spiral. That actually gave me some feeling.
Yeah. Any other arguments for any of these? Or are we good with their placements?
I'm glad I got my 6 in the S tier. That's all it is.
Good job,
that's my
Tori.
intro to horror, and I do think the commentary is just like people wouldn't expect it from a Saw movie. I wasn't expecting it. I thought I was just gonna watch like people get cut up into pieces. And I was like, oh, like my 11-year-old brain was like, whoa, health insurance. When I look back at it as an adult, I'm like, yeah, like it was a pretty interesting concept to put that into a horror movie. And what year did Saw 6 came out? In 2009? So that was right after the recession.
Yeah.
So it was especially fresh on people's minds. Like it was a trigger point for sure. So I think it was especially, what's the word? Topical at the time.
Yeah.
It was also, I mean, when you really see where they were going with Saw 6, it's also one of the... No, Seesaw, you're killing me.
I was trying to stick Spiral in there, but
you know what? If you want to stick Spiral in there, go right ahead. I mean, I gave my opinion on why I think it's the worst. It's one of those that, again, it's split right down the middle. Go ahead, put a C. No, it's not even the song.
Tori, you're okay with it in C?
I think it should be in D. I think that Andres made a really good argument against it, and I do think it's more of a non-Saw movie, but it's in the Saw franchise, so we have to compare it to the other Saw movies.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I'll keep it where it's at. Yes, there will be no Saw in our Saw ranking.
And if we put Spiral in there, it would have been C Spiral.
Yeah,
so there you go.
It doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
Another reason to hate it.
Yeah,
it doesn't
follow
even fit
the
on
naming
the list.
convention. Anyways, that's gonna be our ranking on that. Again, as I did last week, I'm gonna do I will screenshot this, post it up on social media so everyone can judge us and pick us apart of where we're wrong and where we're right. If you think we're wrong, then you should have been watching with us live and giving your input in the chat, as everyone who's been watching live has been able to do. And thank y'all for watching live. But let's go ahead and stop sharing this. What are you doing?
I was pointing
to the chat.
Yeah. Anyways, before we move on to plugs, let's talk about what is happening next week.
Whoa.
Next week's Marquee. I believe next week is actually the final Marquee on a Saturday in October. Let's go ahead and plug this right now. October 30th, not next week, but the Saturday after, we will not be doing a Marquee that night. Ben Bateman from the Movie Trivia Schmodown's coming here to Austin, Texas to do a concert, so we got to go to that. Two, I actually felt it was more appropriate to do a ranking of scary movies the next night. For those of y'all who don't own a calendar or an abacus, that would be Halloween night. So we're going to appropriately rank Barney the Purple Dinosaur video. No, we're going to rank the Halloween movies on Halloween night. I believe I'm going to be there along with Miss Tori down here. And also, I believe Andres will be joining us for that again.
Yeah, I'll join you.
And last I had heard, we also have confirmation that we will be joined by Mr. Tim Franco. Yes way.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Thank you for posting a no way earlier that I could use now. But Mr. Tim Franco will also be joining us. So that's going to be 4 people sitting here talking about Halloween movies, including Halloween Kills. So if you haven't seen Halloween Kills, make sure you go see that either in theaters or on Peacock, because we will be talking about that movie. There might be some spoilers, but I mean, there's really not much to spoil in that movie, I would say. So whatever. Here's a preview. It's not going to rank high according to me. So next
make
week,
some choices.
Oh yeah, Tim Franco. Yes, I will be there. I will be fighting. Awesome. That's going to be a good one. So Halloween night, join us for the Marquee that night. Halloween movies. Next week's going to be a good show, because next week we will be reviewing a select. We can't do all of them because it's a huge list, but we will be doing a select chosen few of A24 horror movies, and we will be joined by guest star Miss Sabrina Ramirez.
Yay!
So I am eager for this, because I feel like the A24 movies, at least for me, there's definitely movies that are good, and then movies you're like, oof. I don't understand this movie. So that's going to be a lot of fun to talk about next week. So make sure you join us for that. Hey, Robert, don't say Peacock. It's a family channel. All right. Join us next week for that one. Sabrina Ramirez, we've had her on this channel before. She is a fantastic guest. So looking forward to that one. Oh, apparently I lost our... there it is. I was like, why am I seeing like all of the Saw bathroom all of a sudden? But let's go ahead and wrap this up. Andres, as our guest, feel free to plug yourself on our channel.
All right. Well, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram as Gallegos. You can also find me on Twitch as Gallegos209. I do a retrospective podcast with my buddy Steve called the Underrated series. It's on High Voltage Media on YouTube. We have just put out our retrospective of Any Given Sunday by Oliver Stone in honor of the football season coming back. And then also, we're just about to film our second episode of me, Nancy Rodriguez, and our mutual friend Tom Chattelbash. We're doing a podcast called Film on Tap, which is just film discussions bi-weekly. It's a lot of fun. There's a video component to it on YouTube, and we, as of today, we are officially on Spotify as well. So go check that out. It's Film on Tap. It's a fun show. I really enjoy doing it, and we're going to be discussing quite a bit. And they usually drop on Wednesdays, every other Wednesday. So yeah, tune into that. And then you can find me on the FCL every now and again. So there you go.
Well, FCL is wrapping up its season.
It's wrapping up, but you can find it.
Yeah. Tori.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at ToriXRose. I will be doing, so I had mentioned last week, I was doing a show with Sabrina Ramirez, speaking of which, on Midsommar. It's still happening. It had to get moved because Sabrina was dealing with some personal stuff. So that's happening this Tuesday. I think it's I don't know what time it's at. I forgot what time it's at. It's Tuesday night, though. I will post it on my Twitter. If you follow me on Twitter or Sabrina, we'll both be posting about it. It's going to be a ton of fun. And then I'm also on Tagline every Wednesday on the Cinefanatics with Robert and Chris. Also,
we
Robert,
don't say the name here right now.
I was gonna say if you better all check out in 2 days the match that's happening.
2 days? Oof.
Something's happening in 2 weeks.
Yeah, we'll see who's gonna end up owning the Cinefanatics YouTube channel.
And
the channel is on the line.
Who's gonna get custody of me is being decided on Tuesday.
So weird.
Anyways, who's getting my birthright?
Anyways, as for myself, make sure you follow me at Robert Adams MLP on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. Yes, you can also make sure you follow me, The Revenant, as I go up against my brother, Chris Adams, the other Cinefanatic, better known as the Gentleman, whatever, over on the First Class League of the Movie Trivia Schmodown. We will be on the First Class League this Tuesday, the 19th at 3 p.m. Am I doing this number right? 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern. Good Lord, time zone.
There you go.
And yeah, that's on twitch.tv/the Schmodown. It's the Cinefanatic Civil War. Loser has to do all the dishes that night or something. I don't know. We'll figure out something. But yeah, it's going to be a blast. You've seen like all the promotions online. If you're not following the First Class League on Twitter, woof. It's a lot of fun. My Twitter feed is nothing but like Team Revenant. It's more like Team Gentleman, whatever, people. Anyways, you can follow Cinefanatics at Cinefanatics MLP on Twitter and Instagram, and that's going to do it. So make sure you follow us on patreon.com/Cinefanatics, all the cool stuff we're dropping over there. Join us for the Tagline on Wednesday, and yeah, I believe that's going to be it for right now. So as for myself, as for Miss Tori Rose, and for Andres, whose last name we'll try not to butcher this time, thank y'all for joining. Thank you, people in the chat. We will see y'all next week. Bye.
Cheers.